Okay, so what if I told you that some of the sharpest social critiques aren't hiding in some dense academic essay, but in, of all places, children's nonsense verse? That's exactly the world we're diving into today with Sukumar Ray. Now, if you know Bengali literature, you know he's an absolute giant. And on the surface, his poems are these whimsical, funny things for kids. But you look a little closer, and there is this incredibly sharp, satirical edge hiding right under the surface. We're going to deconstruct one of his masterpieces, the Sons of Ramaguru, and really pull back the curtain on how all that playful madness actually says something profound about our own world.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First up, we'll get to know the man himself, the genius behind the madness, Sukumar Ray. Then we'll meet the Ramaguru family, who are, let's just say, committed to being miserable. From there, we'll dig into what's really going on, uncovering the hidden satire in all this nonsense. And we'll finish up by looking at the poem's final, fascinating twist. All right, first things first. Before we can really get the poem, we have to understand the poet. So let's explore the absolutely unique world of Sukumar Ray. You know, you can't really talk about Sukumar Ray without talking about his family. I mean, this wasn't just some artist. This guy was basically the product of an artistic dynasty. His father, Upendra Kishore, a super famous writer and painter. And that creative genius didn't stop there. It passed right on to his own son, the legendary filmmaker Satyajit Ray. Just try to imagine this for a second. You're a kid, and the guy who comes over for tea, your family friend, is Rabindranath Tagore. Like, wow. For Sukumar Ray, creativity wasn't just a hobby. It was in his blood. It was his birthright. And this is where it gets really interesting, because here's the secret ingredient to Ray's genius. He fused art and science. He actually got a degree in physics and chemistry, so his mind was trained in logic and structure. Then he goes off to England and masters photography and printing, the technical side of telling a story with pictures. This combination is just so crucial. His nonsense isn't random chaos. It has this precise, almost scientific logic to it. And even though his life was cut tragically short, that unique blend of skills is what allowed him to build a legacy that's still so powerful today. Okay, so we know the creator. Now let's step inside his creation. It is time to meet the unforgettable and, well, profoundly unhappy Ramaguru family. In just these 4 lines, Ray basically flips our entire world upside down. The number one rule for this family is simple. Laughter is forbidden. The most universal human response to humor is inverted. It's not just rude to laugh, it's a taboo, something that causes them actual pain and makes them wail. This is our entry ticket into their brilliantly absurd universe. And what's wild is that they aren't trapped by some outside force. No, they're trapped by their own philosophy. Their whole existence is this active, disciplined performance of being miserable. They're in constant fear of chuckles and literally recoil from any breath of cheer. Their whole worldview is that happiness is for fools, and the only thing with any real value is grieving. This isn't just being sad, it's a conscious, all-out war against joy itself.
So, how on earth do they keep this up? How do you maintain a constant state of despair? Let's actually dissect the anatomy of their unhappiness and compare how they react to things that should bring joy versus grief.
Look at this. This table lays out their system perfectly. Every single source of simple, natural pleasure is systematically twisted into a source of pain. Someone tells a funny story, they start wailing. A nice summer breeze comes along, they avoid it. Even something as innocent as fireflies dancing at night gives them zero comfort, just anxiety. They've built this completely airtight defense system against any chance of feeling happy.
But what's the point of all this? Why write about such a ridiculous family? Is it all just one big, silly joke? No way. This is where we get to the poem's true genius. All that absurdity is actually a disguise for some razor-sharp satire. And this idea right here is the key to unlocking the whole thing. Nonsense literature isn't meaningless at all. It's a tool. It functions as a commentary on rigidity and hypocrisy. Just think about it. Ray creates this totally absurd rule for the Ramagurus. Laughter is forbidden. And by doing that, he makes us, the readers, start to question all the unwritten and often equally absurd rules that we follow in our own lives without ever stopping to think why. And if you look at Ray's own life, you can see this wasn't just for fun. He was a major figure in the Brahmo Samaj, which was this huge social and religious reform movement in Bengal that was all about challenging rigid dogma and old, outdated traditions. His pen was his weapon. His writing wasn't some escape from reality. It was a way to push for social change. When you see it like that, The Ramagurus suddenly become this perfect metaphor for any group in society that just fanatically clings to joyless, unnatural rules.
But just when you think you've got it all figured out, that it's this straightforward critique of rigid people, Ray throws a massive curveball in the final stanza.
And this is the poem's masterstroke. After spending all this time encouraging us to laugh at the Ramagurus and their absurdity, the narrator suddenly turns the mirror back on us, on the jolly readers. He warns us not to judge them. He says we have to grant them their right to melancholy. It's just a stunning reversal, a plea for tolerance towards a way of life that seems not just baffling but fundamentally wrong. So the poem leaves us with this incredible tension. On the one hand, yeah, it's a biting satire of any group that chooses rigid, joyless rules over human nature. But on the other hand, it's a powerful challenge to our own intolerance. It really forces us to ask a tough question. What's the bigger danger here? A society that's afraid of laughter, or a society that can't tolerate anyone who chooses not to laugh? I'd love to know what you think in the comments.